Now for some more definitions. A data array is when data is ordered from smallest to largest. So we're just going to start out and arrange our data. The median is a measure of center known as the midpoint of the data array. It's the value exactly in the center. The symbol used for a median actually isn't a Greek letter. We use the capital letters MD. Sometimes textbooks will use just a capital M. Sometimes they'll use all three letters MED. Median doesn't really have a standard symbolic representation, unfortunately. So it really depends on the context of the problem and on the context of what you're reading, how to determine if it's the median. Now, to find the median, we're going to first arrange the data values in ascending order from smallest to largest. Then we need to determine the number of values in the data set because the number of values determines how we find the median. And we'll call that number n, just like we did before with the mean. If n is odd, if it's an odd number like 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, etc., not divisible by 2, then we take the middle value as our median. But if n is even, then we take the mean of the two middle values. We add them and divide by 2. Okay, let's try this with the two sets of data we had before. One of them we had 8 values, the other one we had 5. So let's find the median by hand for the data that we had in our first example. We will start out by arranging this data from smallest to largest. And so if we arrange them from smallest to largest, 0, 0, 1, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. N is 8, which is even. For step 3, n is even, so we have to use the mean of the two middle values. So the two middle values are these two right here, 3 and 4. We want the number that sits between them. Our median has to sit between them. So we will take 3 and 4, add them and divide by 2, and 7 divided by 2 will give us 3.5, which is our median for this data set. Interestingly enough, this was the same as our mean. And this is coincidence, merely coincidence that our mean and our median are the same. We'll be looking at a lot of data sets where they are very different. And we'll talk about why that's important and which one is better. In the next example, we have 5 values. So n is 5, which means n is odd. If n is odd, we'll take the middle value as our median. Well, one thing that's great about this data set, it's already in ascending order from smallest to largest. So we just take the middle value, and the one in the middle is 5. So our mean and our median are two different measures of center with different procedures to find them. Let's get our last major measure of center, the mode. The mode is the value that occurs the most often in the data set. And for the mode, we can have several different situations. Unimodal means there's only one value that occurs the most. Think unicycle. There's only one wheel. Uniform, one form. That prefix uni means one. What about bi? The prefix bi means two. Bicycle, bi-monthly. And for bimodal, two values occur with the same greatest frequency. Multimodal, multi just means more than one. Usually, when we talk about it in terms of mode, means more than two values occurring at the same frequency. Since we have a representation for two values as bimodal, multimodal is reserved for 3 or more. And then no mode, no data value occurs more than once. All of the data values are unique. So let's run through a couple of examples of a mode. Find the mode by hand for the following data. And if I look at this first set, I notice that I have 0 as the only number that repeats. So my mode is 0. I have a single mode. This data set is unimodal. In the next example, find the mode 0, 2, 5, 8, 9. Nothing repeats. So there is no mode. In the next lesson, we will look at mean and median for a grouped frequency distribution. Ultimately, if we only have that table instead of the raw data, if we only have a frequency distribution, can we still estimate the mean of the data set, the mode of the data set? And then we'll talk about 2 more measures of center, one that's not as commonly used, the mid-range, and the other one called a weighted mean that you actually have experience with in regards to your GPA, among other things.